Okay, so today we have a Mark 7 R. I know we have a couple of these on the channel so far, kind of doing dyno comparisons and stuff like that, and we definitely don't film everything that comes in here, and we also film a lot of stuff that doesn't actually make it to the channel. But I look back through and I don't think I have any videos of Stage 2 APR Mark 7 Rs. So we have one come in to do a little bit of troubleshooting and to dyno it. So I figured I'd film a little bit of it and see if we can put something together for you guys. Now, a couple things to note. APR doesn't offer the Stage 2 software anymore. They've now actually just within the last week or so released a turbo that enables you to be able to run the stock downpipe and still make between 400 and 500 horsepower. It's pretty nuts, but they're focusing on emissions, which I totally get. But this one, we've dynoed quite a few Stage 2 Rs with EQT and Cobb and APR and all kinds of different ones over the past few years. However, again, we're trying to share as much data as we can and share some of the real world results that we get with tuning these things. So I figured we'd add the Stage 2 APR software to the list on our channel. So this one is a maybe, I forget what year it is, can't remember off the top of my head. Either way, it's Stage 2 red, not very many red Mark 7 Rs around here, and it's basically got APR everything on it from what I can tell. The car wasn't originally from here, it's from out west. But it does have APR intake, the carbon intake, and the carbon inlet. It does have APR coils on it. It does have a full APR Turboback exhaust, so APR's downpipe, catted downpipe, and APR's valved exhaust, which is a very, very nice setup. And that's pretty much it, I think, for engine mods. It's still using the stock intercooler, so I would expect a little bit more power with an upgraded intercooler, but let's get to dynoing this thing and see what we can do with it. And again, oh yeah, 91 octane as always. Before we get into dynoing the R, I'll just bring for our regular followers and viewers, I'll show you a couple of things that we're getting into, and we'll have some videos coming up here shortly. So this is the motor out of my drag car, 16 valve, it spun a bearing the last time we had it on the dyno. So we will be doing a teardown of this. This is the all-wheel drive conversion in TSI, which is very filthy right now. But as you can see, I kind of got the manifold mocked up. The engine's not totally in place, but you guys will see that in the video, the next video we do of the manifold. And also this thing is back in, which is a 2.5 cylinder 07K. It is running ECU master. We did have issues with the turbo and we had to send it back to Precision and it got rebuilt. So the turbo's back in there now, you can't really see it. We have a few more things to do to it, but this we'll have on the dyno very shortly. So let's get to dynoing this R. Okay, I'm ready to start the first run on this one. I think I said it was in for troubleshooting. It's not really in for troubleshooting. The car's about to make a big journey across the country, as I think he's originally from here but now lives out west. So he wanted us to kind of go over the car, check out, make sure there's no major problems. Also wanted to know how much horsepower it was going to make, or how much horsepower it makes, and also log it to see if there's anything that might be going on with it, just in case. He's got a long road trip. He also wants a little bit of information to see what he could potentially do to get a little bit more power out of it. From experience with these things, generally all the mods he has is pretty much it. Aside from the front mount intercooler, we do see gains even on Stage 2 with the front mount intercooler. So not totally needed, but there is some power to be had with that. It's just how the expense that goes towards the front mount intercooler versus the gains you're actually going to get. You might see anywhere from about 10 to 20 wheel horsepower on a, you know, stock turbo setup. However, when you get into doing a turbo upgrade, obviously it's definitely required, as if it's already being taxed with a stock turbo, it's going to be taxed even harder when you put an upgraded turbo in it. So I'm ready to do a run here. Everything's geared, already logging. Well, already logging now. So let's do it. Okay, first run, 329, 347 torque, which is right around where it should be from the previous cars we've dynoed, especially APR cars, but the other software that we've dynoed, they've all pretty near similar results. Obviously we're going to do a couple more runs. I'm going to take a look at the logs and see if we can rinse and repeat that. Okay, so I've gone through the logs. Everything looks bang on. It's hitting boost target the whole way. With this software on this fuel, it makes like 28 pounds of boost as peak. At a little bit higher than that, I think 28.5 is the highest. But the map sensor is only good for 29 pounds, so it's pretty much maxing those out. Again, keep in mind it is on 91, so if you're running 93 or ethanol or anything like that, you're going to see better numbers than this. Also, for the new people to the channel, yes, this is a MK7 R, which is all-wheel drive on a two-wheel drive dyno. All we do is unplug the Haldex. Pretty simple. So, with that said, we are now ready to do another run on it. And I am logging it again just to be sure, but from the looks of the first run, everything looks bang on. So we're just going to try to repeat the results. Nearly identical. It did 328.98 and 349 torque, so pretty near mirrored over top of the last run. So we'll probably do one or two more runs just to back it up. I will take a look at this log also just to make sure everything's good. In regards to timing, I looked at the last log and this run, and it's pulling like barely anything, 0.5 of a degree. Maybe at the most. It's pretty near dead on with this. APR software usually is really good on our 91 octane. You know, it is probably a little bit conservative comparatively, but we have other dyno results from other tuners on our fuel, and they all seem on these cars around the same. I'm pretty sure the last MK7 R dyno that we had on the channel anyways was with stock turbo, was an EQT, was with EQT software, and I think that dynoed like 328-ish as well, so very similar. I have to look at the torque on those ones, but very similar horsepower anyway. So give it some time to cool down. We'll repeat it again. Okay, so we're gonna do the last run on this thing. Make sure we're in proper mode. About to start the logging. Everything looks as it should, but we always like to do a few runs just to make sure we got good consistent info. And again, it's not like most of you guys haven't seen similar cars on our channel, but we're just kind of sharing information. So we haven't had one of these ones on the channel, Stage 2 APR, so we decided to put it on here. Okay, let's do it. So that run did 333, 354 torque. So again, all very similar to each other. I think we're done with this thing. Okay, so wrapping up this Mark 7R, you can see once we did a few runs, they were all pretty much over 330, 333, with the last couple of runs, 354, 355 torque. And as you can see, the graph, very smooth as we would expect. So a couple things to note here with this. We do get some comments about comparing this software versus that software, blah, blah, blah. The only time you're going to see any comparison videos on this channel is if it's got to do with the exact same car, meaning if we have multiple ECUs, or if a client wants to switch from one software brand to another. That's the only time you'll ever see any comparison videos on here. The reason we post these videos is, for the most part, as I probably mentioned at the beginning, is to kind of just share the data and show you real world results. For whatever reason, I have a hard time saying that. So we just want to share what we actually see on these cars with the mods that are on them. To try to compare like one software versus another on two different vehicles, there's just too many variables with different modifications, all that sort of thing that can come to play. I think I mentioned earlier, like for us, typically a Mark 7R will dyno anywhere from about 320 wheel horsepower to about 350 wheel horsepower, and that is strictly dependent on the mods that it has. And keep in mind, this is on 91 octane. Everybody who has better fuel than this, yes, you're going to see a bunch more power. We are very limited on the fuel we have, so 91 is all we have here. So what I was getting at, I think earlier in the video I mentioned, like one of the previous Mark 7R Stage 2 videos that we did on the channel had EQT software. I think they were within a couple of horsepower from this, but that car also, I believe, was a catless downpipe versus this being a catted downpipe. So there's so many things that come into play. If you're dealing with any of the higher end tuning companies out there, especially with like an off-the-shelf tune, they're going to be all fairly similar. I think the highest Stage 2 Mark 7R we had was with front mount intercoolers, so there is power to be had with those. But most, like I said, anywhere from about 320 to about 350 wheel horsepower, depending on the mods. The higher end always has a front mount intercooler. So that's enough of me babbling. If you guys have any questions or comments, be sure to ask them below, and we'll see you in the next video.